So on today's podcast, I have the amazing Faye Lawrence. Faye is the founder of Untoxicated, which is an alcohol-free social tribe with regular events in Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne, and has an online support group. Faye also graduated from a psych degree just a month after getting sober and is also a grey area drinking coach. And Faye has done a TED Talk. Amazing. Faye, welcome to She's Sober Sydney. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Thanks so much for having me on. Megan, is it Megan or Megan?
Oh, look, it's Megan in the UK.
English, the UK.
It's Megan,
sorry,
but
yeah,
no, I get both. So Megan is lovely.
Okay, Megan, thank you. Thanks so much for the intro, Megan. Thanks for having me on. Trying to think if there's anything else to add. That I've just turned 5 years sober.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you.
That's amazing.
It's been a crazy journey.
Wow,
really life changing.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing. I just wanted to quickly say, because the listeners know about my anxiety, but this is my first interview on the podcast, so I'm a little bit nervous, but I like to be open about that. I think it can help with the nerves.
Good for you.
Actually, I have a quote on my fridge. It says, "Take action no matter how frightened you are." And I think that's what we do when we give up. The drink.
Totally. This is what I say to my clients as well, is that discomfort piece part of the journey.
Yeah.
Hugely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sitting in the discomfort and not numbing it. And that's very confronting. And
learning will survive, though.
Absolutely.
Survive and quite possibly thrive.
Yes, that's the aim. That's the aim. And I think that's what you're doing. And I think it's where I'm heading as well. So
yeah, great.
That's exciting. So to kick us off, Faye, would you like to tell us a bit about your drinking journey?
Sure. So I started drinking, like a lot of people in the UK and Australia as a teen, really. And, in the UK, also like Australia, it's a boozy culture. And, it's sort of almost like a rite of passage. You get to, 12, 13, and that's the time when you start, dabbling. And I, in my family, we had alcoholism on both sides. And so, that was certainly part of my experience growing up. And I loved it from day one. I just absolutely loved it. I did have a period there when I sort of kind of went off the alcohol and went into recreational drug use, like a lot of teenagers in the rave scene, showing my age. But alcohol was always my first love, and it was really throughout my life the one way that I knew how to deal with everything, and whether that was anxiety, whether it was stress, whether it was parenting, whether it was unpalatable feelings of worthlessness, or but also socially it was a big part for me as well. So the thought of, for example, doing a weekend without alcohol would be just, why would you do that?
Sure.
And that was all well and good, but so for quite a long time I was a heavy but high functioning drinker. So I was, like a lot of people, keeping it all together, but I was still having pretty gnarly incidents along the way, like smashing my 2 front teeth out. That was when I was 29, and I didn't stop drinking till I was 44. So there were periods where things were kind of under control, in hand a little bit, depending on what was going on in my life, and then other periods where it would just really get too excessive. And so I'd spend, Saturdays throwing up. That was pretty much norm. It tended to be the weekend that I had the kids, because I had them 50-50. Things were probably a bit more moderate, but then the week that I didn't have the children, then I'd really go to town. And so whether that was drinking with friends after work, and then being hungover at work all day the next day. So that was really common, hangovers at work a few times a week. Sunday sessions, kicking off the week hungover. And then basically it all came to a head in 2017, where it had gone from that high functioning style of drinking to drinking in the morning, drinking 2 to 3 bottles of wine a day, or a variety of whatever it was, alternating. I was still working from home a bit. I was still doing bits and bobs, freelance. So I was still able to manage that, but everything else had pretty much gone by the wayside at that point. And yeah, I basically knew I needed to stop at that point. I really wasn't getting, it wasn't working. It wasn't working for any of the reasons that I actually used alcohol. So it wasn't working for my anxiety. It wasn't working to make me feel better. It wasn't working to push the pain down. It wasn't working for fun, relaxation. I didn't even want to drink, but I just couldn't stop it at that point. And I think that's the natural progression of things for a lot of people. You know, people think, like I did, oh, I'm high functioning, it's never going to get to that point. And then circumstances in your life might mean that actually it does. And I think COVID was a good example of that for a lot of people. You take going into a workplace out of the mix, and that's what happened to me. I wasn't going into a workplace, and I had no one seeing what I was doing. And that's when things really escalated for me, and I was going through some other stuff as well. And yeah, that's how it happens. But you know, I first saw alcohol counseling in 2001, and I didn't get sober till 2017.
Wow.
So, you know, when my clients come to me and they go, oh, I'm never going to make it stick, I've been trying on and off for 4 years, I'm like, oh, that's actually quite a small amount of time. You know, not to dismiss what they're saying, but to validate that actually this quite often does take a lot of goes, and there might be times when your appetite for change is a lot higher. And it's, as we know, not a linear journey. So for me, I went into inpatient detox because I knew I couldn't do it by myself. I tried lots of things before, none of it stuck. And I came out, I was in there for, I think it was 5 or 6 days, came out, and that was it. I was like, no, I'm that's it.
Wow.
That was definitely the rock bottom moment, knowing that I scared myself as to the state I was in prior to going into detox. And I was just like, no, I don't want this. I just don't want this for my life. And yeah, that was when it all changed.
So that's what was different, going to detox and then it stuck?
I think it was more, you know, the realization that I could see what the future was going to be, and I was worried I'd end up dead.
Yeah. Wow.
Because I really didn't care about myself at all at that point. And I just thought, you know, I wouldn't say I was actively suicidal, but I wouldn't have cared if I died.
Yeah.
You know, because I was in a lot of emotional pain, and I was just like, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And it was all coming to a head, you see, because there's only so long you can push it down.
Yeah.
And I've been pushing it down, you know, for quite a long time. So it's all going to come out eventually. And that's the point that it got to. And I didn't really want to face what was underneath, but it was that or the alternative. And yeah, for the alternative, I guess, was ultimately I don't really want to die a painful death. You know, like we did have, I remember seeing as a kid, someone in the family did have cirrhosis and died, you know, so I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I didn't want that, and it wouldn't have been fair on my children. You know, it's really, really hard to get someone to put down something that has been a coping mechanism for decades.
Yeah.
Around, I'm not going to belong to, people won't like me, or, you know, I won't fit in if I don't drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Despite the fact that they want to stop drinking.
Yes, it's that cognitive dissonance. And we work a lot on the things like belonging and not feeling you belong. And ironically, towards the end of my drinking, I started to feel that I wasn't belonging because I was the idiot drinking.
Yeah.
Which is partly, you know, it wasn't working for me. Like you said, the reason I was drinking was stopping working for me. I was just doing stupid things. And people, you know, people were like, oh yeah, you said a few stupid things. And I just started to stay at home, to be honest, and drink at home. But I also have found, and I wanted to get your opinion on this, you know, I feel it was probably me at some point. There are some people, I think, that look at me because I think, it was in your TED talk, you mentioned the dreaded A word, alcoholic.
Yeah.
And I feel like, because I don't resonate with that word or that label. And like you, I was high functioning and not what I thought of an alcoholic was on the street with the brown paper bag.
Yeah.
But I think it enables some people that might think their drinking's too much, that they can look at me and go, well, she's an alcoholic, so I'm okay. And it sort of gives, I've found that a few people in my life will continue feeling better about themselves because, not because I actually did drink more, but because I've come out type thing. It just enables them to feel like they don't have the problem because I do. Does that make sense?
It does, because, and this is why I was always reluctant in early sobriety for the first couple of years to ever mention how much I was drinking at the end of my drinking career, as I call it, because I thought there was danger in people looking at that or hearing those amounts and going, oh, well, I don't drink that much, and so I'm fine.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think there is, because people do use it as a barometer. But I think, though, things are changing in that, you know, and I was also reluctant to talk about the detox experience as well for that same reason, because people will go, oh, well, that's someone who really had a problem. I'm not that person. Yeah. And then go, oh, that doesn't apply to me. I'm not at that stage. But the fact is, I was only at that stage for the last, say, 6 months, you know, and prior to that, I'd been like everybody else. I wasn't necessarily knocking, you know, I'd be going to work and having, say, half a bottle at night.
Yeah.
Smashing it on weekends and then smashing it on nights during the week I went out. But if it was just me at home at nighttime, half a bottle, you know, and I'd try and limit it to that. So it would just depend. But I mean, also I think the narrative is changing around needing to be a rock bottom drinker before you stop.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, why? You don't wait till you've had a nervous breakdown before going to seek help for your mental health.
Yeah. Yep.
You could be mildly depressed and still need to go and see someone to talk to, or go to get medication, or whatever works for you. Why wait until, you know, like, why wait till things are really bad and needing a lot more intervention, rather than, actually, things are feeling uncomfortable for me. I'm not in integrity with my values.
Yeah.
I'm not being the parent or the person I want to be, or the employee or the partner or the friend, because of alcohol. And I want to change this now. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think that's been helped by people like you and the sober community now coming through, is that you can, some people might drink once a week and not be happy with that. So it's making it all much, very different from the old label of alcoholic. And I even had a friend reach out recently. I would have considered her a non-drinker. And she said to me, I'm stopping. She only has a few. She goes, but I've been inspired by listening to you. And she said, I just don't need it. And I thought, look at that, total other end of the spectrum that I'm on, but making that positive change. And I think it comes down to individuals. If you feel you need to make a change or want to, then do it.
Absolutely. And I think if you've got that little voice inside of you that's saying, yeah, I think I might want to change this. And we all do have those little voices that, we try and push down. Then that warrants exploration, at the least. But I think also with the sober movement, with the alcohol-free movement, with more people speaking about this and more people walking this path, it is showing that normal, quote unquote, whatever that means, people have problem with alcohol, and you don't need to be, at that gnarly pointy end to stop. So it's kind of, I suppose, the stereotype that we have of the brown paper bag is actually not what a lot of people that have a problematic relationship with alcohol look like. They look like just like us.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly. They're the people you work with. They're your friends.
Exactly. It's the same as mental health.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with both, it's becoming definitely more accepted within society, which helps people not be so afraid to take that next step. But like you said, I had that niggling voice, and it was there for quite a long time. And I did look into things for a long time. And like you said, it might not be an overnight thing. It can be years.
Yeah.
So I also just wanted to ask you your thoughts on moderation, just because a lot of my clients and a lot of friends and me, before I gave up, looked at moderation because it's scary to say never. And I tell people, I don't say never. I just say I'm choosing not to drink, which I am. I can, I choose not to. For me, moderation could never work because it's the thinking about drinking that took up all my time. And by letting go of that, I'm free. But what are your thoughts around moderation?
Oh, again, I think it's such an individual thing. I think once you've reached the end where there is some kind of psychological dependence, it's almost impossible because your brain recognizes the substance and goes, party on, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's like, I want more. I think, though, quite often it is a necessary part of the process of people testing to see whether they can or they can't. But I think by the point, for example, that someone comes to me because they want support, and you as well, it's quite unlikely that it's sustainable for them, moderation, because you do spend so much time thinking about how to make it work and all the variables. Like, okay, are you the type of person that has ever been happy having one or two drinks? Be honest with yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Realistically, how many times have you tried to moderate, and how many times have you been successful in moderating? So for me, abstinence, I hate that word. It sounds but for me, taking it completely out the picture wasn't easy, but it was easier than trying to moderate.
Yes, that was my experience. Yeah.
But I do appreciate that I was probably further kind of gone, I guess, but I've been trying for like 17 years or whatever it was to moderate on and off.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, pretty sure I've got enough data there to kind of accept that it's not working. So I know, a lot of people don't like the word alcoholic, and it isn't medically correct, as we know, and they don't really bode well with the forever thing. But I did personally have to give myself an absolute, because I'm such a grey area person, all the shades of grey, that if I gave myself any wiggle room, I would take it. So I had to be, this is just a no, just absolutely a firm no. And I did kind of do step one, I suppose, which was I did admit I was powerless over alcohol. I'm not an AA person, but I did realize I'd lost control. And for me, that was actually empowering because I took my power back then.
Yeah.
It wasn't about giving power over, which I thought it was for a long time. And I was like, no way, I can still control this. I'm not powerless. What a load of rubbish. But eventually I was like, you know what? If I pick up one drink, I actually am.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it's going to end up.
Oh, totally.
So I'm taking my power back by not having that first drink.
Yeah. Yep. And that's huge because I was literally one drink for me. I would not know what was going to happen after that. There was no stopping. That's why I can't moderate, because 2 drinks, what is that for me? That is just horrible.
Why would you bother?
Absolutely. And there are people that will absolutely understand that. And if you're like that, you'll understand that moderation is impossible. But it was that first one, there is no stopping after that. And that line that was crossed could take you, and I could have gone anywhere, and it scared me in the end.
Yeah, same. And because I just I'd given up any sort of illusion that I had any control over this. Once I started drinking, I didn't know what was going to happen after that.
Yeah.
Which sounds dramatic, but if I went out is what I mean. So if I went out, coming home with all my stuff, or I wasn't going to remember anything after the first half an hour to an hour.
No. And isn't it the worst feeling when you woke up that next day and just had to start putting pieces of the puzzle, which you couldn't find some of those pieces ever? I would wake up in fear, and it was like, oh no, now I have to find out what I said or did, or
and you're trawling your phone and your bank's all the rest of it. And I don't actually even remember being at that place.
No.
I caught an Uber from where? Where the frig was I? And with who?
Exactly. And I was a photographer, and I always prided, my happiness in life was memories, and I was just not making memories anymore. I was making blank things, and I'm like, I want to remember the people I'm with, and what a waste of my life coming home and not remembering what I did.
Yeah. And you're with people and you're like, oh, I caught up with friends. I actually can't even remember any of the conversation past the first half hour. But it was I remember I've always sort of prided myself and had the illusion, I guess, that I was someone who had quite a lot of integrity. And then I remember going to my therapist, who I went to for a Buddhist psychologist, and she was amazing. And I worked with her for quite a few years, and she said to me one day, "You're not living in your values." And I was so taken aback.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it at the time.
Yeah. Wow.
And then now I can, because of the alcohol mainly.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And no, I wasn't living in integrity at all.
No.
So you can't learn to like or love yourself, trust yourself, or have your own back when you're constantly blacking out, or not constantly, but even semi-regularly.
Yeah.
Doing things you regret, doing things you feel shameful for. I've come to view that kind of behavior as self-harm.
Yes.
It's another form of self-harm.
Absolutely. I agree with
just
that.
Like eating disorders, just like actually cutting or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's another form of self-harm.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing for me that helped me kick it for good was I just, with my ex particularly, if I was drinking, I reacted, and we had fights, since not drinking, like you said, being with integrity for yourself, I don't react like that, because that's not me anyway, and that way it stops things. I know who I am. I don't need to fight a point with someone that's never going to acknowledge or what I want them to. It's changed. It just stopped me being manipulated, stopped me fighting. that was not who I was, and it wasn't in my values.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. And it gives you actually the space, pardon me, to be able to observe and that space to pause before reacting.
Yes.
Which is not something I ever understood before either.
No, neither did I.
And having that choice in the moment to actually go, if I explode and knee jerk now,
yeah,
it's not going to end well. So I'm going to sit on this for 24 hours before I respond to that email, or I'm going to think about this before I respond to that text thoroughly and think about how I actually feel.
Yes.
And sit with it for a bit rather than just firing off from your child.
Yeah, exactly. And it's another part of what's hard in this journey, because it's not easy.
No.
It is part of trusting yourself, is that, I now have to look at when I am, if I do have a confrontation, say with this person, I now have to look at, why is that upsetting me? I don't react. And then again, that goes back to, well, that's triggered in me that I'm not worthy or I'm not being validated. And that involves me being kind to myself. So it's all part of that. It just sort of it's a ripple effect, isn't it? And you just have to work on that and that. And
big time. It's the biggest benefit, one of the absolute biggest benefits for me in being sober, and it keeps going, is this ability to, and like you say, it's always a work in progress. Like, it's not, you don't suddenly become perfect, and it takes a lot of work, but it's the emotional sobriety piece, really, whatever we want to call it, because when we stop drinking, our level of maturity is what it was when we started.
Yeah.
So we've got a little bit of catching up to do.
Yes.
A little bit of catching up to do.
Yeah.
But it is about it's sort of I've lost my train of thought, sorry.
Oh gosh, I do that all the time.
It's definitely about that maturity piece and going, actually, I do still have I have control in the situation, and I know it's a bit of a cliche, but I can respond and not react. I can look at the triggers and understand what's underneath that. I can choose to, how I show up in the world and how I handle myself. And part of that is things like, what I've started doing in sobriety, which I'd never done, is actually taking responsibility.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And apologizing.
Yes.
When I've stuffed up.
Yes.
Which happens, all the time.
Yes.
Apologizing because I was so defensive over my fragile ego that to ever admit I was wrong would just felt like something that was going to kill me almost.
Yeah, that I so resonate with that. That's a big part of my journey now. And I apologized the other day for something.
And you feel so grown up.
Oh, I know. It's that catching up on the adult part we've missed.
Yes.
But it is. And then it just makes you aware of other people. And, like, I can also now have compassion for some people that they're being triggered and they, are living out their things they know, and they don't know any different. So it helps in that respect too.
I think you start to realize that, and I can't remember who, it's part of Paulo Coelho or whatever his name is, one of the 4 pillars, I think, which is like, nothing's actually personal.
Yes. Yeah. And that's been a huge eye-opener for me to not take things so personally, but to accept. I can take constructive criticism now as well. I look at it as constructive. And I'm willing to look at what people say and not have, like you said, the just crumble in a heap because my fragile ego, I can handle it. And I can make a change if it's legitimate, or I can have a look at how to help myself. And
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you've got to throw the whole person out, you know. Like, I
No.
think we've heard before this thing of like, if someone criticizes me or if there's
Mm,
something that you know I'm doing wrong, that means the whole person's out, the whole person's worthless, the whole person's
yes.
needs fixing. And actually, no, it's just one part. And actually, no, you don't actually have to agree with the person either.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
It's huge,
know,
isn't it?
yeah, it really is. And that's, you know, all of this work. And this is why I love people in recovery, sobriety,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, is people are so willing to actually explore their stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just makes for deeper and richer and more honest, I feel, friendships.
Oh, absolutely. And I was going to say to you, because a lot of people's fear is that they'll lose their friends, but I'm just finding I'm gaining so many more amazing friends. And it's so like meeting you today is amazing. And just that connection. And all we've done is give up alcohol, but yet the bond, you know, I just think it's next level. But did you feel you've lost friends?
I have, yeah. Yeah,
And
I have. Not many, but they have shifted some of the existing friendships, and I have actually just outright lost some. And you know, that's incredibly painful at the time when it happens. And it is, with my clients, a really significant concern around their friendships. And often they find themselves, especially after I think like a year or so of sobriety, year to 2 years, because I do have people come to me after they've had a period of sobriety to go, I don't know what you know, I'm sort of feeling confused here about what my life, what the next phase looks like. And so we work on, you know, because everything's shifted for them. And so their existing friendships, they maybe still want to keep those in their lives, but they're feeling like they're not on the same wavelength anymore. And they might be feeling like things just aren't fitting for them. And this is where the gold is, I think, because this is where people start to, you know, recognize that they can actually almost design things the way they want them.
yeah,
So they can actively choose what they want that to look like. And for a lot of people, that might be recognizing that they're actually more introverted than they were,
hmm,
and that they don't want to do the same things that they were doing before, and they want to shape their life a little bit differently moving forward. And it's almost like they kind of need permission to do that rather than trying to fit themselves into what was before.
yeah,
But for me, predominantly, I shifted relationships from evening to daytime.
yeah,
Those relationships, I probably do see people less. And I, you know, obviously founded Untoxicated because I wanted to make new sober friends, or friends that didn't drink a lot,
mm,
and do things socially. And so that has been, and just being part of the community now, which has grown a lot outside, you know, hugely outside of Untoxicated as well,
mm,
has meant that, you know, I've met a lot of people and I've got a wide circle of friends. And I think, you know, a key concern for people is this whole thing around connection with others. And I feel that in sobriety, you actually have a better connection because
mm.
it's a real connection, it's an honest connection, and it's a often at times more vulnerable connection.
Yeah,
Whereas
absolutely.
the alcohol's actually keeping people at a distance.
Oh, for sure. I heard on a podcast the other day, I can't remember where, but it was on along those lines that really, you know, you drink and you think you're getting really deep and it's just so
Yeah,
it's not authentic. And it's
no,
often I didn't remember anyway, the
correct.
conversations, but it's really sad because you're not having that authentic connection.
No,
It's but that
you're really not. It's all false.
yeah, it is. And like you know, I've lost some friends. I kept the great friendships I did have before, and I also do day things a lot. I'm
Mm,
only a year in, and I am in a place where I don't like nights. And it's
yeah,
not because I'm afraid of drinking. I really value being at home and relaxing at night.
yeah.
Um, I will start to do a few more things this year, but I have lunches, brunches, coffees, walks, and I've kept my old friendships that way.
Yeah.
But I did quickly just want to touch on Untoxicated because I
Sure.
reached out. I found it online. So I gave up 4 years ago for just 4.5 months. And I reached out and found a group and in Sydney. And I
That's
did a
so
couple
cool.
of things. It was so cool because looking over all the years, and it is probably one of the top needs in the world is connection. And so the first thing I had to know was that I'd have someone to connect with.
Yeah.
So I did find Untoxicated and the lovely Mags, and our first meeting was a dinner, and it was so scary. I actually went with a friend. Thankfully, she was on the same journey, and we were like, "This is like high school."
Yeah.
But we walked in, and like I said before, the connection was there because we were all in the same boat. You know, we all weren't drinking, and most of us had given it up.
Yeah.
But not limited to in that group. You could come if you just were never a drinker, and it was just
Yeah, or you
amazing.
might still be drinking, but just not at the event.
It's a booze-free event. And
yes.
And since then, I've done a few, and I actually just end of last year went to Sculptures by the Sea at Bondi with the group. And it's just so nice to meet different people, and some I've kept in touch with, and some each time there's new people.
Yeah.
But, you know, I wanted to say thank you because that was a huge thing for me to know I wasn't alone. And it's just amazing. And I heard you say that you met your partner at a Untoxicated singles event, was it?
I did, but we've now broken.
Oh, well then, okay, then that is great because can you organize another one and I will come? we might meet our future partners.
There's definitely scope for sober dating. There really is.
Oh, well, you know, I want to meet someone sober. When I do.
It's so tricky. I'm back in the dating pool. I'm starting again, and it's
it's awful.
Oh, well, trying to find someone that doesn't, really drink much is difficult.
Oh, absolutely. I've got off the apps. I actually never even met up with someone on them because first of all, I don't believe anything they say. It's what you want to hear, but I couldn't find anyone that didn't drink, and it was let's go for a drink. It's like, I just don't want to start out like that.
I'm very open though about the fact I don't drink on my profile, but look, it is challenging. It's definitely challenging. So I don't know if I'll do another one. But that was in 2020. Was it 2020 or 2021?
Maybe
when did
20.
COVID hit?
Yeah,
when did COVID hit?
COVID hit it in 20, but in March or April.
Yeah, it was February before that.
Oh, wow. So 2020.
Yeah.
Look, I'm sure the community of single sober people is growing because we know the whole sober movement is growing.
Yes.
And I'm happy to just wait and see if I meet someone along my journey. But it's a funny place to be in because you certainly don't want to end up with someone that loves going to the pub all the time. Been there, done that.
I can't. I'd rather not have alcohol in. I mean, I don't want to have alcohol in the house, for example. So
no, I don't.
I'm okay with someone who doesn't drink much, but I don't want it in the house. And so if someone wants to have a couple of drinks when we go out, I'm okay with that. But I don't want someone who's a big boozer.
Yeah, absolutely. And can I just ask lastly how your kids? I don't know what age they are, but seeing you on this journey, how it's affected them. Because my kids, for example, I've got 24, 17 and 13. And I'm just so happy to show them what's possible. But they were all quite stressed about me drinking it towards the end.
Yeah.
And it's slowly, I can see that they feel more secure and happier. I was just wondering how your kids have changed with it or.
Yeah, so my kids are 26 and coming up 24.
Okay.
I had them quite young and they're really happy about it. Yeah, they've always been really supportive. And I think, they didn't like it when I was drinking. And it's one of the biggest regrets, to be honest, and I probably will, I know we shouldn't have regrets. I have apologized to them. But it is one of the biggest regrets that I didn't stop when they were smaller. And that they were subjected to, you know, I grew up around it, and then I was like, and so I knew what it was like. And then I went and did similar, you know, and yeah, I do regret that, but you know what, I'm really, really thankful that I've broken the generational cycle. And neither of my kids really drink.
Oh, amazing. And you have broken it. That's what counts. And yeah, I mean, touch wood, mine don't either. I don't know. My son's 13. I've still got the teenage years there, but my girls aren't so interested. And I don't know if that's because of me or if it's just the way the world's going. And I certainly hope it is that.
I think so. I think actually young people are moving away, aren't they?
Yeah.
But, you know, my kids saw, you know, in my final time, my eldest daughter had to take me to emergency because I was in such a mess.
Yeah.
You know, and so distressed and you know, frankly, you know, incredibly drunk. And no child should have to do that. She's not a child. She was an adult at the time, but no, I don't care. No child should have to do that. That's not okay. And yeah, hopefully I can't change the past, but hopefully I can just show them now, and they're incredibly supportive and proud of everything I do, which is nice, and I can consistently be there for them.
Oh, isn't that just the best? And and it must make such a difference to them. I mean, you know, it's huge what you've done, what I'm doing for our kids, and we can help other people do that, and that's what's important. So
it's what we do, not what we say.
Yes, exactly. Oh, Faye, I have loved talking to you. This is just, it's been such an excellent first interview for me. Thank you for agreeing to come on.
Thanks for inviting me, and lovely to chat to you as well. Great to connect. We've got so many similarities going on.
Oh, absolutely. I look forward to crossing paths in the future then, because I'm sure there'll be different events and things that we both go to.
Hopefully I'll get down to Sydney, or you'll get up to Brisbane.
Yes, that would be amazing. And I do absolutely admire you, because as we said before, you and I both had really bad social phobias, and to see what you've accomplished is just so inspiring to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've really, you know, I just look at that and just think, wow, you are amazing. So
thank you. So are you. So are you. We're survivors.
Absolutely. Look, I got my strength tattoo just to remind myself, because sometimes I think we forget to pat ourselves on the back, because it is a big thing.
Sticky notes up around.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yes, me too.
Reminding myself, actually, I'm okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Having a bit of forgiveness for ourselves as well. And like you said, we don't want regrets, and we wouldn't be where we are without our journey.
That's right.
But it's learning from it, which we're doing.
It is, absolutely. Important. Yeah.
But thank you, and I look forward to seeing what you're doing next, and I'll be following along on your journey.
Oh, thank you, and I look forward to following your journey too.
Oh, thank you. Okay, we'll take care, Faye.
See ya.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.